Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, my dearest brothers and sisters, and welcome to this episode of Shan Ramadan with me, Dr. Mehwish Qureshi. I testify that no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah. Know that among the greatest deeds that Allah made a religious duty during this month after the obligatory prayers is fasting. Allah made the fasting of this month one of the most important matters of the religion. Verse 185 in Surah Al-Baqarah means, "The one of you who witnesses the month, then let him fast it. فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ." The obligation of fasting the month of Ramadan becomes incumbent upon the occurrence of one of two matters: to sight the crescent of Ramadan after the sunset of the 29th day of Sha'ban, which is the month just before Ramadan, or if the crescent is not seen, then by completing 30 days of Sha'ban. So the beginning of the month of Ramadan, as well as the end of the month, is determined by sighting the crescent, by sighting the moon. So if the crescent is not sighted, then the month would be completed by 30 days, as is the case with determining all the months of the lunar calendar. Now this is taken from the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, related by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. لا تقدموا رمضان بيوم أو يومين صوموا لرؤيته وأفطروا لرؤيته فإن غم عليكم فأكملوا عدة شعبان 30, which means, do not fast 1 or 2 days before Ramadan. Start the month when you see the crescent and end the month when you see the crescent. If you are blocked from seeing it, complete 30 days of Sha'ban. So, on the 29th day of Sha'ban, and this is what we do with my children, subhanallah, on the 29th, actually there's a group of us, on the 29th day of Sha'ban, directly after the sun sets, the Muslims look towards the western horizon. If the crescent of the new moon is seen, then the following day will be the first day of Ramadan. And if it's not seen because of cloud cover or another reason, then the next day will complete 30 days of Sha'ban. And the day after that is the first day of Ramadan. Now, in the northern hemisphere, the new moon appears like a backward C, like this, like a backward C, and can be remembered by making this shape with your right hand. Now the old moon is observed by making a similar shape but with your left hand. So this is the shape of the old moon, and this is the shape of the new moon. New moon, old moon. Now one should try and arrive 15 minutes before the sun sets and observe around 40 minutes after the sun sets, because the new moon usually appears within this time. Allah Ta'ala revealed in the Quran a method and a set of rules clear of falsehood for determining the beginning and the ending of the month of Ramadan. Moreover, Allah revealed this method and set of rules on the tongue of His Prophet, who did not speak out of his own. Jibreel descended to Prophet Muhammad with the Sunnah as well as with the Quran. The Muslim took these rules from the Prophet and implemented them from the time of the Prophet ﷺ until our days. This method is based on sighting the crescent with the naked eye in towns, villages, and countries. All those who lived in Muslim countries and became familiar with their custom know this fact. The Muslims' custom comprises going out to sight the crescent, gathering in spots where sighting is clear, and firing guns or igniting fires on tops of mountains when the sighting of the crescent is confirmed. There's so much excitement, there's such a buzz, subhanallah. Such sighting announces the beginning of the honorable month of Ramadan or the advent of blessed Eid. Now these are nice habits. Their roots go back to the time of the companions. People of knowledge observed these practices during different times, and respected pious Muslims were keen to participate in them. These practices were established amongst the Muslims around the world. So one should be surprised when people are wanting us to quit following this dignified route and methodology of the Prophet, and instead they want us to follow the calculations of the astronomers for determining the beginning of the month for both fasting and for the day of Eid, and not to rely on the testimony of trustworthy ones and the pious, God-fearing Muslims. Be warned, my dearest brothers and sisters, of those who determine the month of Ramadan relying upon astronomical calculations. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ informed us that such calculations are not relied upon in determining such matters. Imam Ahmad related in his Musnad from the Prophet ﷺ that he said, "Inna ummatun ummiyah, la naktubu wa la nahsub, ash-shahru hakada wa hakada," which means we are a nation which does not depend on writings and calculations to determine the beginning of the month. The month is either 29 or 30 days. Praise be to Allah, how easy the matter is. Any Muslim with the sound sight who can see can observe the crescent. He doesn't need to rely on complex calculations which only a few people understand. Those who advocate calculation said that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ instructed to consider sighting and not calculations because the majority of the Arabs at his time did not know how to write or calculate the position of the moon. And had they known how to calculate it, the Prophet would have instructed them to follow calculations. Now, the refutation of this misconception is multifaceted. Firstly, had the matter been as they mentioned, and had the Prophet wanted to make the judgment on this issue contingent on calculation, he would have told the Muslims to refer to those people familiar with calculations. Though not numerous, people familiar with calculations did exist at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Moreover, the Prophet would not have told them to start fasting and stop fasting when the moon was sighted. Secondly, had this ruling been based on what they said, then it would not have been unknown to the Muslim scholars who preceded us. Astronomy was known and commonplace during the times of previous Muslim scholars. As a matter of fact, although previous Muslim scholars had both vast experience and wide exposure in this science, they still abided by the ruling based on sighting the moon or completing 30 days of Sha'ban. This is so because those scholars knew that the Prophet ﷺ did not want to tie the rule of fasting to the claims of the astronomers or the calculations of the astronomers or mathematicians. Thirdly, most of the Muslims today do not know and do not master the calculations of astronomers or mathematicians, just as it was the situation during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So in other words, nothing has changed. If they say this unfamiliarity with calculation was the reason behind making the ruling contingent on citing, then this same reason still exists today. It's as if they say this is not the reason behind the ruling for citing. If they say that this is not the reason behind the ruling for citing, then they have rejected their previous saying and thereby abandoned it. Fourthly, Al-Bayhaqi narrated from the root of Sufyan ibn Salama. While we were at Khaniqin, we received a letter sent by Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah raise his rank. He told us some crescents were bigger than others. So if we sighted the crescent in the daytime, not to break our fast until true trustworthy Muslims testify that they sighted it the night before. Our master Umar radiallahu anhu not only did not rely on calculations, but also ordered the one who sighted the crescent during the day with his naked eye to not count on it. This is because such a doing is not the sighting which the Prophet ﷺ instructed to abide by nor ordered to follow. On the other hand, the saying of Umar radiallahu anhu that some of the crescents are bigger than others is explicit in opposing them and in invalidating their reliance on calculations. That is, unless they want to claim they possess more knowledge about the religion and the meaning of the instructions of the Prophet than our master Umar, and how far from the truth this is, subhanallah. Let it be known that the issuers of this strayed opinion have opposed many sayings of the Prophet ﷺ. If the Muslim just reads in the section on fasting, in any of the famous books of hadith, one will find those people's opposition to the Prophet clear and blunt. Also, one will be astonished and will question how those people will face the Prophet on the Day of Judgment when they claim to have followed him, and yet they contradict his hadith and reject it. For you, my dearest brothers and sisters, the one who seeks the truth, following are some of these explicit sayings of the Prophet ﷺ. Al-Bukhari, Muslim and others narrated from the root of Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah raise his rank, that the Prophet ﷺ said, what means the lunar month is 29 nights, so do not fast until you sight the crescent. However, if it was cloudy, then complete the count to 30 days. The Prophet made this clear statement, but those who oppose said, we are going to fast whether or not we sight the crescent, whether or not it was cloudy, as long as the astronomer has instructed us with that. Subhanallah. Malik, Abu Dawood, At-Tirmidhi, and Nasa'i narrated from the root of Ibn Abbas that the Prophet ﷺ said, do not fast until you sight the crescent, and do not break your fast until you sight it. If it is cloudy, then complete the count to 30 days. لا تصوموا حتى تروا الهلال ولا تفطروا حتى تروه فإن غم عليكم فأكملوا العدة 30. Al-Bukhari, Muslim and others narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said what means, we do not rely on writing or calculations to know the beginning or the end of the month. The month is either 29 or 30 days. In a narration by Ahmad, the Prophet ﷺ said what means, we do not rely on writing or calculations to know the beginning or the end of the month. The month is either 29 or 30 days. Fast when the crescent is sighted and break your fast when it is sighted. If it is cloudy, then complete 30 days of Sha'ban. Another hadith, Al-Bukhari and others narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, do not fast Ramadan 1 or 2 days before its time. Fast when the crescent is sighted and break your fast when the crescent is sighted. If it was cloudy, complete 30 days of Sha'ban. Clearly, the Prophet stressed the issue of sighting. When some of the followers of the companions said the moon was 2 nights old and others said it was 3, Ibn Abbas asked them, which night did you see it? They replied, on such and such a night. Then Ibn Abbas said, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said what means, Allah prolonged its time in order for it to be sighted. The crescent was born the night you saw it. This was related by Muslim. May Allah endow His mercy on you. Observe how the Prophet ﷺ forbade fasting without sighting the new moon or completing 30 days of Sha'ban when sighting cannot be achieved. Also observe that the Prophet ﷺ considered the fasting without sighting or completing 30 days of Sha'ban as fasting before the time of Ramadan and prohibited it. If those people know this saying of the Prophet ﷺ, it's enough to demolish all what they have said regarding to relying on calculations. No saying which goes against the saying of the Prophet ﷺ has any consideration. The saying of the best of the creation is not abandoned for the sake of following the saying of any person per se. It's not permissible for one who claims to follow Islam to deviate following the texts of the Prophet, to follow his own inclinations and the whisperings of his devil. Subhanallah, Malik, may Allah raise his rank, he said, the sayings of all of us are subject to rejection and correction except the occupant of this grave, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Every one of us rejects statements, and his statements are rejected except the occupant of this grave, that is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Subhanallah, the scholars of all the 4 schools, the Hanafis, the Shafi'is, the Malikis, the Hanbalis, all the scholars of the 4 schools agree that no consideration should be given to the sayings of astrologers, astronomers, or mathematicians for determining the beginning and the end of the month of Ramadan. Moreover, many scholars conveyed the scholarly consensus on this ruling. So reliance should be placed upon sighting the crescent or completing 30 days of Sha'ban, as mentioned by many scholars within the 4 schools. We advise every Muslim to abide by the sayings mentioned by the scholars of the 4 schools. The Muslim nation unanimously agreed on the high rank and integrity of those scholars. Let the Muslim learn the rules of fasting by studying under someone who possesses both knowledge and trustworthiness, and is someone who has acquired the knowledge from another trustworthy and knowledgeable person, and like this with the continuous chain all the way back to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the one who follows the people of knowledge and merit, he drinks fresh water, pure from all inert materials, free from harm. Let the one who sips from the murky, dirty water blame only himself. Finally, blessed be those who abide by the Muslim Jama'ah, their masses of scholars, and the sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. On the Day of Judgment, regret shall be to those who follow a way other than that of the believers and stray away from the believers' methodology. And Allah knows best. I hope you can join me in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.